Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the start of the ninth chapter's videos. I have quite a number of slides, so I presume that there will be more than one video. I will proceed without the picture because I am in my office on campus and I don't have my green screen behind me, and so I think it's better if we do it like this. So I'm mostly going to page through the textbook with you to highlight what is important. Now, the whole chapter is about social insurance versus social assistance. So one of the most important things to do is to know what the difference between this is. So the combination of social insurance, which we will define just now, and social assistance is what we call social security. So this covers a lot of things. So it covers old age, survivorships, that people that are very poor, incapacity and disability. I googled the word incapacity and it just, one of the synonyms is disability. So I'm not sure what the textbook authors mean by having two different words there. Then unemployment and rearing children. So parents could also get grants in some cases when they are raising children. So social security has two purposes. This is important. The one is to protect individuals who normally earn enough, and that is social insurance. So people that do have an income, to protect that income through insurance is social insurance. Well, if you want to support individuals who cannot earn enough to live from, then, so that's the typical grants that we hear about so often, then that is social assistance. So think of insurance, social insurance, just like any other insurance. Your car insurance or house insurance or anything like that. So what we will see in this chapter is that social insurance is provided by the government when private insurance fails as a market product. It's just a typical market failure, and then the government steps in, as you know. So my textbook looks like a mess, and the slides, but that's the advantage of the electronic textbook to me, is that you can highlight and it keeps the highlights. So if we go to the list of things to study in this chapter, there's a list of 6 and you can focus on 5 of them. So you must absolutely be able to distinguish between social insurance and social assistance. So I can ask that in a definition for 2 points, then you just have a brief description. But the whole chapter is about social insurance and social assistance. So you should also be able to write a paragraph on each one of them. Now they have a little bit of the economic theory of insurance, which I don't think is so very applicable. So they explain how insurance works in the private sector. What we will focus on is how the private insurance fails as a market failure and why the government has to step in. But you don't have to know the theory of private insurance. I think it's important to know what is best. Do you give someone money, or do you give them food or food vouchers, or what do you give? What is the best thing to give to a poor person? Then there's also a very nice thing called the conditional cash transfer programs, and we will briefly look at what Tanzania does in this regard, and I think that's really clever. What's important for you is to discuss the incentive problems associated with social insurance and social assistance. For example, if someone gets a grant, do they work less? So do we affect the labor market through the social insurance system? And then how does it look in South Africa? So you should be able to briefly describe the South African income security system. And I think most of us have a very good idea of that because it's something that's in the news all the time. So the textbook starts with 9.1, the two components of income security systems. And the two components are social insurance and social assistance. So what is the difference between social insurance programs? Now look at the bottom oval. Social insurance is for someone who has a job. So they are employed and they pay insurance premiums against uninsurance or against a lack of income. And then social assistance is just handouts by the government and they take taxpayers' money. So these people are unemployed and therefore the government needs to help them. Insurance, if you pay insurance premiums, you must have an income. So if you have a job, then there's unemployment insurance. You pay a portion of your salary every month. It's a very small portion as an insurance premium. And then when you get unemployed, the government can refund you. This happened a lot during the COVID pandemic. But what about people that don't have jobs? So insurance doesn't apply to them, and that's why the government has to implement social assistance programs just to assist people. So why do private insurance markets fail? 9.2.2. This is important. I think in general this is important features of market failures, and it's the so-called information failures of the market system. The first one is adverse selection. You might have heard about this before in other parts of economics courses because it's very common. What is adverse selection? It's like the insurance market attracts the wrong people. Adverse selection, it's this insurance market attracts or selects the wrong people. What does that mean? If you have a high probability of suffering a loss, then you are more inclined to insure yourself. So if someone doesn't have any risk that he or she is worried about, they don't go to the insurance market. So that means the market attracts people that are risky. And that's an adverse selection. So the second thing is moral hazard. Now, moral hazard means that people can behave. So if you drive recklessly because you are insured, then that's moral hazard. When you take out the insurance policy from Outsurance or MyWay or so on, the company assumes that you will behave properly. But if you don't behave properly, then you have information that they don't have about your planned behavior. If you skip red lights or stop streets or you speed and so on, then you're taking risks, and that's morally wrong because your contract with the insurance company says that you will behave normally. So moral hazard is if people's behavior change when they are insured and they act in a more risky fashion. So the market failures is basically caused by information asymmetries. Information asymmetries, that means the insurance company and the person who wants to be insured have different levels of information. Any person going for insurance knows much more about themselves than the company knows about you and your behavior. So they have to take some statistical average of people when they determine the premiums. So if the market fails, so as the market fails and therefore the government steps in, so the government steps in the form of social insurance systems, and that means also the government can operate at a much larger scale. So if they do it properly, then social insurance could actually be more efficient than private insurance, because the government can do this for everybody on a very large scale. And that if it's so that then becomes a public good that the government provides, and it's good for society to be insured. So that will be another example of a merit good, which you know very well by now. So social assistance, other than social insurance, has two goals. The first one is livelihood protection effects. So the government wants to make sure that you have enough to live from, but they also want to promote you to be better in the future. So they don't want to just take care of you with a grant. In the longer run, they would like to see that your livelihood as a grant receiver improves. There should be livelihood promotion. For example, the initial grants should be such that you become able to go for a job interview and so on. Hopefully you can get a job, and then your livelihood improves over time. Now, one has to think of the risk, and I think the criticism against social assistance, which you very often hear, are true, obviously. There are risks involved. There are risks involved in just giving people money. What if they just squander the money on luxuries? The goal of the grants is to protect your livelihood, not to let you start as wasting your money on expensive cell phones or DSTV or this and that and the other. The basic idea of any grant is just to let you not go to bed hungry at night and so on. So I think one does see that the recipients of grants squander the money. The second risk is that they use all the money just for consumption, and they don't promote their situation. They don't use the money to invest in something that can ensure the income over time, which is livelihood promotion. Okay, so the next section will be on cash or in-kind transfers to beneficiaries. Should we give them cash or should we give them something? Now, there's quite a long discussion about this, so I will do that in the second video.